Alright, it looks like we're rolling. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy, Jake Dominguez, back with another movie review. Now, it's been a little over a week since I posted a video, sorry about that, but no worries, a review is, being filmed right now, I guess. So, yeah, way to go. So, thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to review Tonya. Now, this movie is one of the movies that were nominated for quite a few Academy Awards this year. They just announced the Oscar nominations recently, and this one was nominated for like 3, I think, including Margot Robbie, who was nominated for Best Actress. And this movie's being really talked about. It's already won some awards and stuff like that, so I wanted to make a review of it, because this was one of the movies that I was most excited to see this year. It was certainly one of the ones I was most interested in, and I don't know, guys. I want to be honest. I was a little apprehensive to make this video and to do this review because this is a difficult film to talk about and to review. There's so much to discuss here. It is not a movie for everyone, obviously, and, I don't know. Tonya is an interesting movie. This is one of those films that you're either going to love it or you might even going to hate it. Similar to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I already, reviewed a little while ago. There is definitely some controversies about this movie, obviously. There's going to be something like that almost every time they deal with a movie that's based on a true life subject, especially one as touchy as this and deals with people who are not the very best people. And there's a lot to talk about here. And although Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is pretty different from Tonya, different films, beyond the fact that they're both black comedies and deal with some dark subject matter, Tonya is actually based on a true story. Tonya tells the story of Tonya Harding, and it tells basically her life story. It's basically the origin story and the life and the tragedy of Tonya Harding. And it talks about the horrible scandal that happened a long time ago with the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. Oh, shoot, was that her name? I think that was her name. And it basically just shows what happened from her perspective, the perspective of her husband, played by Sebastian STAN. Or Shaw, not Sean, sorry. and it goes from all these different perspectives. This is a pretty interesting movie. Tonya really made me think, and overall, I think this is a really great movie. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it really made me think. Having said that, like I said earlier, I completely understand why you may not like this film. This is a very, very touchy subject that it deals with in this film. And there's a lot of controversies about it, and I'll talk maybe a little bit about a few of them in a bit. But the reasons I liked this movie, it was also some of the reasons why people might hate it. Because Tonya is a very morally ambiguous movie. This is a film that feels, and you could tell that is influenced by films from the 70s. And that sort of era of filmmaking. Back in the day, back in the 70s, before Star Wars basically became popular, you were allowed to make movies that were weird, that were morally ambiguous. Think of the films like Mean Streets or Taxi Driver that were made by Martin Scorsese. The films of Francis Ford Coppola, like the Godfather films, or The Conversation, or Apocalypse Now. So many more. Those kind of movies. And Tonya reminded me of those films. The films of Sidney Lumet, and I could go on. Those kind of movies. You were able to make movies where the main characters weren't necessarily good or bad. They were anti-heroes. You were allowed to be morally weird and morally ambiguous. And this is a very ambiguous movie, and people hate ambiguity, and I understand that. I don't like it either. I like things to be either good or bad. In fact, one of the reasons that era of filmmaking kind of ended was kind of because of Star Wars. That movie was very, joyful and optimistic and hopeful, and it led to the blockbusters that, culture that we live today. That's not a bad thing. You guys know I love Star Wars. But we don't really get movies like that anymore. In fact, this movie, you could tell, is influenced by those kinds of films. And because of that, I really enjoyed Tonya. The movie is filmed in a very interesting way. It's filmed almost like it's being filmed for a fake documentary. It cuts in between fake interviews and the dramatization of what happened. And the movie makes it clear right away that this is based on real events and real interviews from the screenwriter who wrote this film. I think it might have one or two more co-writers, but I know that a lot of this is based on real interviews and real stories. You can read online all about that. And like every real life event, this person said that, this person said that, blah, 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 different perspectives, all about that. And the movie doesn't always make it clear whose side is true, because I don't think there is a really true side. In fact, some people have criticized this movie because some people think it makes Tonya Harding look a bit more innocent, or lets her get away with it, and that sort of thing. Because the question is, what did she know or not know about this event? Oh, excuse me. And here's the thing. I don't know, I'm just a dumb guy recording this video. I saw the movie, but I gotta say, I can understand that controversy, but for what it's worth, it does seem a lot of it comes from people who haven't seen the film. And maybe that's not a fair accusation to make, but for what it's worth, although this movie portrays Tonya as it really portrays her life as such a tragedy. It does portray her as a very sympathetic character. She is portrayed as a victim here. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily whitewashing of history or anything like that either. It doesn't portray a very flattering portrayal of her, if that was the intent. The movie does make Tonya look pretty guilty of a lot of the mistakes she made as well. It doesn't let her get off scotch-free. So when people saying that this is like a redemption film or something like that for her, I mean, it does portray her as a victim. It does portray her as it portrays her as a victim of abuse her entire life. From her mother, from her husband, from those around her. And if it does portray that, and it portrays her as a sympathetic character, but it also doesn't make her look like she's not complicit in some of the things that are going on. Does that make sense? So it isn't a very flattering portrayal. So I'm not sure. I don't really get the redemption story thing in this film, because no one comes across really that well. And that's the thing. All these characters are so flawed. And I like that. Human beings are flawed. And I found the story interesting. And I like seeing all these different portrayals, which you can tell was very influenced by Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. Have you ever seen that movie? It's one of the best films of all time. Basically, if you've seen that movie, it invented the whole different people telling different versions of the same story technique, which we have seen ripped off zillions of times in TV shows and movies and stuff like that. Tonya does that, and I appreciate that they keep it ambiguous and just kind of show the events or different versions of the events for you to kind of get your own thoughts by. I really liked that. Heck, this story, it's amazing that it really happened. Well, maybe amazing the wrong word. It's the terrible that it happened. But this is definitely one of those stories that shows you that truth is stranger than fiction. Yes, there are things in this movie that were made up for the film, dramatizations and all that, but it's amazing how much of it really happened and is based in reality. If the Coen brothers invented this script, they would be getting praised for it by how incredible it is and how well written it is. But a lot of it is based on truth, and a lot of it is more closer to the truth or based on what happened than I thought, and that is crazy. And overall, that's one of the reasons why I really like this movie. It is one of the most meta films I've ever seen. The movie has characters who are literally, breaking the fourth wall, if you will. And it's not even that. I mean, they literally break the fourth wall in the dramatization and in the fake documentary scenes, now I think about it. Wow. And they talk to the audience. They know what the audience is here to see. They want to know about the incident with the terrible, blah, 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 trials and the event that happened, right? And the movie knows it, but they also, Tonya Harding and these people were people as well. But they know we don't care about that. And the movie constantly mocks us for wanting to know that, even though they're admitting that they're telling that story as well. I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well, but basically, this movie is meta, and I kind of like that. And you can tell that they're influenced by, the way this movie is shot is definitely influenced by Martin Scorsese. I already mentioned him earlier with his morally ambiguous protagonists, especially in the 70s films, but the way this is shot, The way it uses narration, it definitely feels similar to Goodfellas and Casino and that sort of thing, which I'm fine with. It does it extremely well. Martin Scorsese himself will be the first to admit to you that he was ripping off other movies when he was doing that. So hey, that's fine. He uses it really well. But the thing that makes this movie is the performances. Margot Robbie, man, she is probably the best she's ever been in this role. She's incredible. She's great. She deserves that Oscar nomination. She is wonderful. She's continuing to make great movies. Sebastian SHAW in this film, also incredible. Allison Janney plays the mother of Tonya in this movie, and she is just evil. You hate this character every time she's on. It's pretty totally weird and really well done, but all the acting is incredible. And overall, this is a very well-directed movie. Greg Gillespie? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've always liked his work. I'm one of the only people that really, really liked The Finest Hours, which is a Disney movie he directed. I really liked that movie. It just sort of came and went, but I enjoyed it. And he's made a few other films as well. I gotta say, this is his best film. It's really good. I'm looking forward to more movies he has to make in the future. One more thing about this film, and I'll end my review. Like I said, I get if you hate this movie. It deals with some touchy subjects, one of which is the subject of abuse. It shows Tonya Harding and her life and how she was a victim of physical abuse, etc. throughout her entire life, basically. And that's terrible to think about. That is such a horrible subject. And here's the thing. The way the movie shoots and handles its portrayal of child abuse, and especially like spousal abuse and that sort of thing, it's really interesting because it shows it very matter-of-factly. Now, it portrays it as bad. It's not a positive portrayal at all. It portrays it as terrible and scary and that sort of thing. This movie is anti-abuse, for sure. But it's different from the way it's portrayed as Erased. Remember forever ago, I made a video of a review of an anime called Erased. And a big subject of that show was child abuse in general. And it portrayed child abuse the way, like, a movie would portray, like a horror movie portrays, like, murder or something, if that makes sense. It portrays it as, like, a horror movie or something. It's terrible and really dramatic and awful. Now, it's an anime like Erased is different from I, Tonya, but stay with me. That's the way that show handled abuse. I, Tonya portrays it almost matter-of-factly, almost. And this is going to sound weird, but there's a few times where it's almost played for humor. If you've seen the trailers for the movies, you've even seen that. And that has caused a little bit of controversy, because some people have criticized it for being flippant about its portrayal of abuse and that sort of thing. Look, I don't know anything about this stuff, again, and I completely understand that. But it really made me think, because the portrayal of abuse in this movie is shocking. It is really shocking. But it never, to me at least, felt exploitative. There's a difference between those two things, and that's where I gotta call the shots. Or in my mind, anyway. Here's the thing. The way this movie shows abuse, for me, at least this is my interpretation of it, is that it's portrayed in the way the characters understand it as. Tonya talks in this movie about how abuse was so normal for her. She was abused and it didn't even matter to her. And she was used to it. It was normal. And that's how this movie portrays it, and it portrays it as almost like it's not a huge deal. Because it wasn't a huge deal to these characters who was a part of their lives. It's a tricky, hard subject, but I kind of appreciated how it was. It did make me think about how, when you're a victim like that, you don't even really think of it as terrible. That's my thoughts on I, Tonya, guys. This is a heavy film. I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts on it. My grade of I, Tonya, like my final grade, I would give it like an A. I think it's wonderfully made. It's a pretty great film, but it's not for everyone, and I can understand why you may not always feel the same about it as I do. And those are my thoughts, guys. I think it's a pretty great film. Probably one of the best I've seen all year. But I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say, because this movie is going to get different responses. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It's very emotionally powerful, and I appreciated the messages it had to say. So let me know if you've seen this movie, what you thought down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. And most importantly, never forget, I'm your friend. I'm always going to be there for you. Thank you so much for being my friends. And I will see you next time.